Welcome back to the You Can Too podcast. On today's show, we have Jordan Candlish on the show. Jordan Candlish is a men's coach after leaving his accounting job and playing semi-pro football. He's been through a lot of his journey, and I'm excited to hop into his journey and how he's got to where he is today and what he's doing. And I'm really excited to have you on, Jordan. For those who may not be aware of who you are, can you give us a brief overview?
Well, thanks for having me, James. I'm pumped, honored actually to be here. Brief background about me, I would say I kind of like have lived two lives in my 20s. I lived the life of kind of going after the corporate world, get my degree, starting and working as an accountant, and then realizing that that's kind of not the life that I wanted. It was kind of misaligned with, I guess, what my soul was really here for. And in the back end of my 20s, I've now kind of rediscovered my path as being a coach, a creator, someone that is serving through how I'm choosing to live. And in the middle of my 20s, it was all about just like discovering who am I, what am I here to do, and what am I here to express. And it's been quite the journey in between. But there's lots of different mini stories and all of that. But I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm grateful that you started there because I think that we have a big commonality between that, because that was really for me too. I think that the quote that you live two lives and the second one starts when you realize you only have one really might resonate with you. It's like realizing that your intuition is pulling you towards something else. I mean, you were in semi-pro football and that was a position that you thought you wanted to be in. And especially after getting that accounting job at one of the biggest firms in the world. I mean, how did you build the confidence to step out of that, knowing that, I mean, you're in a position that most people would see as like, this is success. This is absolutely everything you need.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like you have to let your ego has to die in a sense, because the ego really likes that. It likes the kind of the status or the title of, hey, this is who I am. I have the degree. I wear this suit to work. But it was at the same time in my body and in my soul, it was like depleting me. It wasn't. I didn't feel alive. And I think I like the quote, when the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of like taking action and changing your life, that's when you usually start moving. And that was the thing for me. I just couldn't stand the thought of being an accountant for the rest of my life. I couldn't stand the thought of going to the same office every single day, doing work that I wasn't really passionate about. It kind of like lit a fire in me to try and discover something that was more meaningful. And at the same time, I'm super blessed that I was even given that opportunity. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people never even have the opportunity to live a life where they can work in jobs like that and have an education where they can have that. So it's a fortuitous place to be, because it's a struggle that maybe a lot of people will never even get to experience. They just have to work to make money. They don't have the opportunity to have these kinds of thoughts. But at the same time, there's a lot of people, especially our generation, that are thinking this, but they're not actually doing anything with it. So for me, it's the pain. When the pain gets so dialed in, I felt like I was wasting my 20s doing something that I didn't fully love. And I couldn't stand that thought of having regrets in my life of like, what if, so that was the driving force.
I love that. It's kind of like looking at life through like you're 90 years old and you're asking yourself the question, like, would I regret not doing this? And I always ask myself that question. It also comes to, absolutely, I'd regret not doing this. Like for me, it was becoming a real estate agent. And that was my entire like identity. I was going to step into that. And then when I had the opportunity to invest into coaching, it was like, this feels so right. My intuition's pulling me for a reason. There's something here. And then trusting that. I'm curious, was there was obviously an intuitive pull for you. How did you know? Obviously it was the fear of staying the same and the fear of like not being able to actualize what you wanted to do. But I think there's a lot of social expectations that are placed upon us, especially when you were given that opportunity. I know your dad was a part of that as well. Like, how were you able to fight that social pressure to be able to take that leap to begin with?
The social pressure is the hardest part, because
Absolutely.
At the time I was like really embarrassed to tell people about what I was doing on the side outside of playing football and working as an accountant. I was embarrassed to tell people I was like going to yoga and meditating and trying to like learn about myself and learn about like spirituality, because it wasn't really the thing that anyone around me was doing.
Yeah.
And I think there is a time in our evolution, or when a man or a woman walks this path, there is a time where you sort of have to pull yourself away from the people you're hanging out with, or even your family. Sometimes you have to kind of just go into your own internal period of like self-discovery. And that's sort of what I did for probably 12 months, just spending a lot of time on my own, just distancing myself from some people. And that's really how you clarify yourself. I think that's the thing.
Mhm.
To get clarity, you have to have space. And the more clarity that you have, the more clearer and the more confident you start to express. And
Yeah.
that was the thing for a long time. I just wasn't confident in who I was, wasn't confident in what I was sharing. I didn't really know who I was. That's why I was just afraid to go after it. I didn't really know what I wanted. So once you have clarity, I think then the confidence comes, and then you start to give less fucks. You start to care less about what people think, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had that experience as well. And it just keeps going. There's like levels to it. And then you get to the level where you start sharing more openly online. And now there's some of my videos, I get like heaps of people not liking what I'm sharing. I'm like, okay, that's all right. Whereas previously that would have killed me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And those reps really do create that identity of that's the kind of person that I am. And I know for me, the confidence wasn't there either. It was like just something that I had to, for me, it was investing in myself, and making that investment forced me to make that change. It was like,
Yes.
I know what I want to do. I knew I needed more clarity on how to make it happen. But then the accountability and the investment was the accountability to where it was like, there's no other option. This is what I'm doing. And so I know for me, building the daily habit for me was like posting every single day online to build that confidence. Like, this is the kind of person that I am. What was the kind of daily habit or commitment that you made to yourself to be able to really step into that and now do it full time?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that's like the $1 million question in my opinion. One of my favorite quotes from Tony Robbins is like, it's not about what you know, it's about what you can consistently do. And
Yep.
like you're referring to, it's like, okay, what is the thing that you're going to do consistently? And I think there was probably at different stages in the journey, different things that I chose to commit to that created the confidence. The early stages, it was like meditating. I committed to myself, I'm going to meditate for an hour every single day. And I noticed the effects that was having on me. It was less in my mind or more in my body, more being in tune rather than trying to force my way through things. So that was one early commitment. And then recently the content was another commitment too, from like 2020 to 2022, it was like every day I'm just going to create. And it was an identity. It transforms your identity from being like, oh, I'm someone who wants to be a creator, or I don't know, I am. That's just who I am. I just create every day. So that's something that really, that was probably the biggest one, creating content, especially for any other aspiring coach. Like, that's the thing. If you want to be like serious in terms of impacting people, it's like, how are you impacting people? And we have platforms where we can do that every day now. And it just, in my opinion, it just levels up your ability to express, to be in creativity, which is to be in harmony with what God wants to express through your spirit. And like you said, it takes practice. You just have to it's just reps. Just keep going. You know what I mean?
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. And I think that really is it throughout the continuous reps. You build this kind of, I think you get more in touch with yourself throughout posting so much, because you're creating and you have to be able to articulate your thoughts, and being able to do that, you're just getting more in touch with what feels right to you. And I want to touch on what you said a minute ago. I know you had Robin Sharma on your podcast not too long ago. Plan on having him on my podcast soon. It's going to happen. There's one of my favorite quotes from him that really like aligns with what we're saying here. And it's that your daily habits are in direct proportion to your deepest belief about yourself. And it's like, when you have that deep trust, that deep intuition that this is going to happen, that this is what is going to come into fruition, it's just a habit of doing so. And I know for you doing that, I mean, you touch a lot about embodiment and being in touch with your intuition. I'm curious for you, how have you been able to embody that kind of, that character that has built you to where you are today, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I love how you brought up Robin Sharma. He's such a legend, world class creator. For me, it's health. Like, health has always been number one priority, number one value, and I feel like it should be for everyone. Like, when your health's not prioritized, you realize pretty quickly that you just don't have the energetic capacity to be able to really go after the things you want. And I've realized for me, whenever my health's dialed in, everything else in my life tends to be dialed in as well. You know, so for me recently, it's been around my diet and fasting. To be more specific, I have been fasting for like 24 hours. We're going through periods right now where we'll have one meal a day. And for the last couple of weeks, that's what I did. And I was amazed at the level of mental sharpness that I had, the level of energy that I got access to through choosing to commit to that. And initially, it's a little bit uncomfortable because we're so conditioned to be like, oh, I have 3 meals a day. That's just what I do. But the minute you break out of that and realize that, oh no, wait a second, your body doesn't need that much food, and your mind thrives when you go into that ketogenic state. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like just optimizing my health, optimizing my energy, and when that's dialed in, that's when I feel my best, and that's when I'm in flow. You know.
100%, 100%. There's so much less brain fog when you eat less. Like not until later into the day. There's so much that can be done in the morning. It's. I have 5 a.m. club up there. It's like Robin talks so much about it. It's insane. I know that meditation has been something really big for you. Obviously, you left your job to really be a meditation teacher. I'm curious, throughout your journey, what has meditation taught you?
Taught me to listen. And I feel like that's probably the biggest lesson that it can give you is we're so busy constantly like feeding our minds information. And I'm sure you've experienced this as well. Right? There's so many books, so many podcasts, so many videos we could be watching. But most of the time, we're not really absorbing it, not really like embodying it or like knowing it. Yeah. And that's for me where meditation comes in, because you take in all the information and then you give yourself the time and the space to really listen to what from this needs to be applied, or listening to like, what does my body want to do next? What is the next step that I'm able to take on this journey that is going to allow me to apply the information that I'm learning? Does that make sense? Because if we're just consuming all the time and not actually listening to what's relevant, what's applicable, then it's just knowledge. It's just stored potential. So I think that balance is so crucial. You know, consume the information, take it in, but then give yourself the time to just receive, listen, really truly listen to what's true in your heart, you know?
I absolutely love it. I think that the ideology that we feel like we always need more information. We always feel like we need to be busy. We always feel like we need to take more in until we take the action. I feel like that implementation has to overpower information. Like we have to take action before we have all the knowledge. And I think that that's done something really, really well for me too, as well. It's like, I'll read a book, I'll listen to a podcast, whatever it comes down to. And then meditating on what I just learned helps me help my subconscious really figure out, how can I implement this? How is this going to work for me? Instead of just taking in more information, because information is nothing if it's not applied.
Yes.
For I know that working with high achievers and me working with high achievers as well, and us both being high achievers, I think that shame, guilt are two things that really come up when we're not working, when we're not moving forward, when we're not putting in that information. I'm curious how you've been able to detach from that shame, that guilt, and really embody that feeling of self empowerment, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's such a good question, man. That is literally the $1 million question, because you realize pretty quickly, doesn't matter how much money you have, if you can't chill and relax and enjoy your life, what's the point? Straight out, what's the point? And we've all been in scenarios where like maybe we're crushing it in business, but our relationship's starting to fall apart, or we're crushing in business, our health is starting to deteriorate, and we try to take some time off. We just don't have the energy to literally be able to be present. So for me, that's always the guiding light is like, am I at ease? Am I enjoying the process? Can I be present and just switch off from my work and be at peace? Or is my mind consuming me with thoughts of things I have to do and like things I'm worried about? Am I worried about money? And I think the fastest way to move beyond that is to literally just slow down. Like we're always in a rush all the time. And there are times where you want to like execute and really get a lot of things done. And there's seasons to that for sure. But the more you can step back from your work and just, I don't know, what I used to do back home in Perth, I'm not in Perth right now, I'm in Portugal, but my favorite things to do back home is literally just go and watch a sunset and sit and receive nature, and just be like, oh, when you slow down enough, you actually realize that there is peace and gratitude and love always down there. It's always there. But when the mind is so busy, you don't get access to it. So you literally have to prioritize slowing down so that all this lightness just rises above you. And it might sound a bit esoteric, but it really is fucking simple. Life is really, really simple. But we all overcomplicate it, chasing the shiny golden, the money or the goal. But it's not in that, as you know. It's right now. Yeah.
100%. And meditation has been that thing for me that allows me to meditation and walks. So just going on walks throughout the day, especially we're always on Zooms, we're always on calls, like being able to take a step back, go on a 15-minute walk and actually just be with my thoughts, no music, no no information, because we're like, as you said earlier, it's like we're in an era of so much overstimulation. It's disgusting. Like, it's to the point where we take in so much information that we don't know how to act because we're overcomplicating it by taking so much in. Right.
100%.
For you, is there a daily practice that you always go back to that really allows you to not only detach from that shame, from that guilt, but also connect deeper with yourself?
I mean, at the moment, because I've been traveling, like the last 6 months, I've been traveling, you know, and I've been in like 6 different countries. My routine has been changing a lot. So it's really tested me to see, can I have this grounding, you know, this grounding and connection with myself, even while on the move a lot. And for me, my practice has evolved a lot around, like, you used to be every day meditate, just commit to doing the meditation, to now being a little bit more tuned in and listening to what do I really need right now? What does my body really need right now to be able to give me that sense of connection or like grounding back? And some days it's qigong, some days it's meditation, some days it's breath work, some days it is going for a walk. You know, some days it's, hey, I need to jump in an ice bath. I want to jump in an ice bath today and hit the sauna or something like that. So you start to develop a bit more of a sensitivity to yourself. Because when I was in my early 20s and playing the semi-pro soccer, it was just train physically, like go to the gym and just crush it all the time. And you realize as you get older, I was like, that's actually not serving me. I don't need to destroy a gym session every day. And you start to really notice the nuance. Like, maybe I need a yoga class today. Maybe I need a walk today. You know, and there is a day where maybe you need to hit it at the gym. So it depends on, I think, your nervous system, being tuned into your nervous system and knowing what it needs, and then also being tuned into just your body in general, and the level of stress that it's under or not under, because some stress is good. So yeah, I would say it varies, bro, but always some form of meditation and movement every day.
100%. I think those are the 2 things that they have to be foundations, especially when we're getting in tune with our nervous system and with our subconscious. I think it's, as you know, it's the foundation for everything. Nothing else matters really if you're not in tune with that. Throughout your, and I kind of want to take a step back to go back to exactly in that position with semi-pro football and in that job. I mean, there has to be a lot of anxiety and shame that comes up when you're taking that leap into doing something that probably looks crazy to everyone else. I know for me that was something really, really big for me. And my internal narrative during that time was, let's just say, negative. I'm curious, throughout your journey, what was your internal narrative, and how did you really flip the switch in your own mind to be able to take that leap?
The leap being leave my job.
Yeah.
I feel like the internal narrative came from a spiritual connection with a higher power. And I really feel like it's a necessary stage in everyone's journey to develop a connection with something greater than you. You can call that God, you can call it the spirit, you can call it Gaia, you can call it the universe, whatever you want to call your connection with a higher power. Once you establish that and realize that there is an infinite intelligence, a divine intelligence, if you will, that is leading you, that is actually trying to pull you through life. And you don't need to push. You just need to listen and go, okay, where is this intelligence trying to pull me? What feels alive or expansive? And the more I listen to it, the more I slow down and listen, and this could be in nature, through meditation, whatever, the more I listen, the more it was like, I just want to travel. I just want to go off and live. I don't want to be in this job. And every single day that message got louder and louder and louder. And once I realized that I kind of had everything, like I was saying before, once you slow down enough, everything you want is just down there, the aliveness, the gratitude, the love. And once I started to access that place, I realized it's all here. I have it all. And I was like, how can I possibly fail in life if I know I've got it all? Like, once your heart cracks open and then everything flows, as long as you keep your heart open, you have everything that you need. Not necessarily everything you want, but everything that you need. And when that truth becomes an ingrained belief and that's what happened to me. I just believed that so much. The courage emerges from that. The courage was like, okay, I can't fail. Let's go. Let's put this belief to the test. I'm going to quit everything and travel and see if I can figure it out. And you do. You have challenges, that for sure. You get tested, but it led me exactly where I needed to go. I met the exact people I needed to meet and have the experiences I needed to just keep taking me to the next step in my journey. So I would say it was that, bro. It was just a deep, deep spiritual belief system that I cultivated.
I love it, man. I love the distinction that you said there. It's not what you want, but it's what you need. Like, the world gives you everything, man. And this
Yes.
podcast really, it's really surrounded around beliefs, because I think at the end of the day, and Robin Sharma is a big part of that, but it's like our beliefs drive our behavior, which drive our results, which go right back into who we think we are, and then it's just a continuous cycle throughout that. What was that the main? What could you attribute most to that belief, and being able to strengthen that belief? Because I think that is really, at the end of the day, like we said, it's like I would rather know that I gave it my all and fail than to get to the end of my life, have the regret, and say I wish I had. So how did you build that belief within yourself to be able to take that leap? Because I know for me it wasn't easy, and I know for a lot of people listening to this, probably the one thing that's holding them back is that lack of belief.
Yeah, 100%, bro. You're bang on. And I can tell that we've dove into the same kinds of information. We've dove into the same kind of like spiritual leaders and authors. And it's great because that's where it starts is you have to learn. You have to just fill your mind with new information to realize that there are other ways of thinking and believing and acting in the world. And Joe Dispenza was one of my big like kind of mentors early on the journey. I knew that would be the case for you as well. But in 2018, I went and seen him live. I went deep in all his work, and he talks about this. He's like, it's not enough to know what you want. It's not enough to know why you want it. You got to know how. Like, how do you do it? How do you carve out that new belief system or way of being? And it starts with like filling your mind up with new information, and then secondly, like acting on that information. I think that's the thing, right? It's acting on it is the big kind of bridge that you get to cross. And I think we spoke about it earlier. What's the consistent action that you need to be taking every single day? So once the belief system was carved out, then for me, it was like, life is here to support me. Life is giving me the signs. And I've really believed in the fact that life was constantly guiding me. And when you choose to act on that belief, and in my case was quit my job or, take on a new journey, like go on a new adventure, and you start to see examples of life saying, here's this opportunity that just is perfect for you, that just randomly just shows up. It strengthens the belief. It like just hardwires it even more. And you go, oh yes, fuck, no shit. Of course life's got me. That's what I read. That's what I believe. And it keeps strengthening it. So the action, man, it's just consistent action always. And the action that is true to what feels expansive in my body, not the action around like what is it that my mind wants. Is like what is it that my body wants, and act on that, and then you start to realize all the synchronicities start showing up. So hope that makes sense. I'd be curious to hear about yours as well. What's been the thing that you've had to implement to hardwire your new beliefs?
It's 1,000% action. 1,000%. I read the book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, and that book, it changed my life, I'll say, for sure. There's a bunch of books that have had a massive impact, but realizing that like we act according to who we think we are, and being able to take action to create proof that I'm a different kind of person. And like for me, it was, posting online every single day. I started this podcast in my car with no microphone, like just sitting in my car, but it was like acting. It wasn't allowing my thoughts to stop me. And I think that's something I want to touch on with you is like, our thoughts are always going to find a way to bring up every excuse, to bring up every limiting belief, to bring up every reason why we shouldn't do what we really, truly deep down in our body want to do. How have you been able to get in touch with your body to really drown out those thoughts that just want to hold you and keep you where you are?
Yeah, for sure. In the early stages of my journey, I went deep into yoga. Yoga was like, I would say, the entry point into all of this world, because when you move your body in a mindful way, meaning you're moving with breath, you're moving with intention, what starts to happen is your mind starts to quieten, and then you start to listen, you start to hear. And this is what happened to me for the first time. I started to hear, oh, what do I actually want? What does my body want? Not my mind, which was full of conditioned beliefs around like what I think I should want. It was like, what do I actually want deep down? And I got addicted to that state of clarity. So I was doing yoga like 4 or 5 times a week, and it was just opening so much up for me, right? And as kind of I've evolved a bit more, I've realized that I don't need to be doing yoga as frequently to access that state. Now I do a bit of qigong every single day, which is more of a slower moving meditation. But again, it's just moving with breath. And I think you become more sensitive. What I realized, you just start to tune in a little bit more. As you get older, you get a bit more wiser, and you start to really know when, okay, there's something off, there's something I need to release, there's something I'm holding on to, even to the point of like, I know when I'm holding on to anger now. I know when it's like anger inside of me that I haven't expressed. And you just start to realize, okay, I need this. I need to go just breathe, or I need to go and like yell or hit something.
Mm-hmm.
You start to just feel into that. It becomes so much more intuitive rather than structured and rigid in terms of the practice, if that makes sense.
Definitely does. And you may have answered this question, but when it comes to being able to slow down, right, get in tune with your body, really let go of the thoughts that keep popping up and be able to detach, do you have a system or do you have a routine that you kind of go through, whether it's shame or anger or lack of belief? Like, is there a system that you go to that really puts you back into the place of empowerment and puts you in the place to embody the kind of faith and trust that you want to believe in?
Well, I feel like the process is, for me, whenever I fall back into the pattern of shame that you're referring to, reveals itself in my life as anxiety around worry, like worrying about the future, worrying about like, am I going to have enough? Am I doing enough? And the way that I caught that is realizing through inner child work that it was a younger part of me that just wanted to feel like he was good enough to receive love, right? And once you realize that there's part of you down there that just wants to be seen, just wants to be reassured that, hey, you are doing enough right now. You're good. I got you. It's safe. You're here. There's nothing to worry about. And once you can see that part of you, it kind of like cracks everything open around it. So there's signs, there's things that I look out for now, little indicators that part of me needs to check in. And, you know, in the past, I've worked with a lot of coaches and facilitators that have guided me into that place. I'm getting better at taking myself into that place. But it really comes down to that, which is anytime that I'm rushing, anytime that I'm, getting into arguments with people that I love, anytime that I'm worrying about money, it's usually a sign that my inner child needs to check in. It's usually a sign that I need to slow down and go inward and feel, breathe and feel. That's usually the two main things that help me unlock that. So yeah, I would say it's that, man. Like just really knowing like it's just a pattern that will reveal itself every time that you go through some sort of big shift in your life or big level up, I would say. It's the same pattern, just revealing itself differently, disguised differently. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely makes sense. Absolutely. Especially when it comes to like, being an online business and in this position that you're in now, like you're traveling, you're full time into it. It's like, there's always going to be fears. There's always going to be these beliefs or these feelings that when we reach that next level of life, we feel like there's more there. And to some capacity, there can be, but I think that we overcomplicate it to keep our goals at arm's length away. Because whether it's that lack of belief or it's that fear of failure or success or the whatever fear that pops up or belief that you're unlearn, it's going to pop up. It's always going to pop up for you. I'm curious for you, like throughout your journey, especially as young as you are and being able to take that pivot within your life and all of the learnings that you've really taken on through the spiritual leaders and everyone that you've worked with, do you have any books or any resources that you really like, say your top 3 books that have really allowed you to take in what you know today?
Yeah, the book or information that probably had, I mean, there's many. It's hard to like pinpoint one. And I really feel like their information that someone receives is really dependent on where they're at on that stage of their journey, right? Because I can recommend a bunch of books that were so transformative and impactful for me, but it was because of where I was at that time. I was so receptive to receiving that information. You know what I mean? So like I've tried to read books on like business and like different things, and I was like, I'm not at that stage yet. This is just information for me. And I would say that the core books or the core teachings that I learned that I would say I would recommend to everyone, in my opinion, was The Presence Process by Michael Brown. I highly recommend everyone read that in terms of understanding how to self-heal, how to process your own internal wounds from the past. That was a core, like just breakthrough understanding for me. And I would also say like Joe Dispenza's work, because that's the how that we're talking about. Understanding, okay, this is why we meditate, but how do you actually cognitively go through the process of creating behavior change, like we spoke about, creating new habits, and why is it so hard for us to do that? And once you understand it, it becomes a whole lot easier to do it because you've got like a reason. You're like, okay, I'm doing this because I know my mind wants to pull me back into the old way of being, and that way of being is connected to this future. But I want to create this future. Therefore, I have to prioritize this daily thing, because of the shift in energy that it's creating. And you can understand the vibrational scale. When you go up in vibration, you become naturally more magnetic to the things you want. So as you start to understand that intellectually, it becomes a whole lot easier to just apply it, materialistically or physically. So I would say that, bro. Michael Brown, Joe Dispenza, and then understand I'll throw in another one. Frederick Dodson, Levels of Energy. Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. He talks about the scale of consciousness and what they all look like, right? So there would be my three. And I would love to know what yours are too.
Yeah, I love it. I think Joe Dispenza, anything Joe Dispenza, 1,000%. Psycho-cybernetics had a massive impact on the way that I perceive myself and the way I perceive the world. And I think that for anyone starting out to begin with, like one foundational book that I think everyone should read is Think and Grow Rich. Simply to understand the power of how our thoughts cast spells on our mind and the way that and then the way that activates in the way that we show up in the world. And I like that you said that too, because in Joe Dispenza's work, it's a lot of information. I think that for a lot of people, depending on where you are in your journey, it's going to be too much. It's not going to be really impactful for you because you won't be able to implement it. But understanding the inner workings of why we need to do the things that we need to do, like meditating every day, has been a foundational thing for me because I understand how important it is, whether it's to raise my vibe, to unidentify with my thoughts, like all of what it comes down to, we have to understand why we're doing it. And I think especially that the work that we're in, there has to be a why that you're showing up every single day. Yes. What is your
Yeah, it's the number one question and is always the starting point of every journey. So I'm glad you asked it, because when you don't have that, it's almost like that's the spark, that's the fuel. The stronger that answer is, the stronger your internal fuel to show up when it gets hard, when it gets uncomfortable. So for me right now, the why, the driving force for me, I would say is always down to not wanting to waste this precious gift that I've been given to be alive at this time, and to really, express myself fully, to impact fully. And I think it's that, man, not wasting this. I know there's so much more left in me. There's so much more for me to give, and I don't want to have regrets. And there's people that have inspired me that are like no longer here on the planet, friends, mentors, and I almost feel the presence of their souls. Their impact still resides inside of me, and their soul still inspires me. It still activates and lights me up when I think about who they were as individuals and kind of the legacy I get to help continue to leave on through how they impacted me, if that makes sense. So, and there's that, and there's just also the urgency, the sense of urgency that we're in right now around, men's work. And I'm really stepping into, facilitating, men's programs and men's retreats. And I see it, bro. I get on calls with these guys, and I'm speaking to them. I'm like, fuck, man, you guys need this. It hurts me when I hear about men trying to do this on their own, or men who have gone through darkness and they just don't know how to pull themselves out of it. So there's a really, really urgent time right now to be voices, and you're doing fucking amazing work. I have so much respect for other men doing this, because this might be the catalyst for someone else, not just a man, anyone, to just be like, damn, I feel seen in what they shared, and I'm not alone, and I can have support, and I am worthy of better. I am worthy of more. So that's kind of the larger purpose, and I know you resonate with that, because this is why you share this content and do this work. So that's it.
Yeah, man, 100%. I love that you brought that up, because it really is like, whether we impact one person, that impacts one person, that impacts one person, that impacts one person, it just continues on that path. It really is truly the most. I find it we do a disservice by not sharing content. We do a disservice by not showing up as our authentic selves and sharing our stories and being vulnerable and really being open about our journeys, because it helps other people regardless of where their journey is, whether it's one insight or our entire journey. Because we both have similar journeys in the sense that we pivoted out of something that we thought we were going to move into to go into what really feels aligned with us. And I think that just that alone will inspire a lot of other people to really take that leap. I'm curious, as you were saying there, your why comes down to a lot of you've lost people in the past that have really impacted you in the way that you show up for the world. What does the red-tailed black cockatoo bird mean to you?
Yeah, I had another amazing podcast interviewer like yourself asking me the same question. It was so great to hear that this question is now being brought up, because I feel like we all have significant thing like meaning. That's right. It just means something to me, and we all have things that mean something to us, right? And that bird for me at a time in my life where I was going through a deep process, exploring medicines like the 5-MeO DMT, and
Mm.
I remember during that period of my life, I lost a friend, a good friend who was also walking this path, same age as me, and he died all of a sudden in a motorbike crash. And in my 5-MeO DMT journey, you sort of go through a death of some sorts, right? You smoke this toad medicine and you literally think you're gone. You don't think you're coming back. That's what my mind thought. When I did come back into my body, the first thing that I heard was the sound of this bird, because I was out in the Western Australia, I was in Western Australia, out in the bush and the outback, and this bird is such a very sacred animal out there. It's a very spiritual animal. And it's the sound of this bird, I heard it, and I cried in a way that I'd never cried before, because it was a cry of just the joy of existing, the joy of life. The gift that I have of being alive right now. We all have this gift. And I think whatever reminds you of that is of significance. And that bird just reminds me of that, because it was almost like, it also recognized or reminded me that my friend's life, that was lost. It wasn't lost he didn't die for no reason. There was a reason that he died, and it reminded me that I get to remember that reason all the time, because it fuels me. It like lights me up. So and just throughout the last few years, it keeps revealing itself. It kept revealing itself to me in significant moments, which is like what we said before, the belief system. When you believe that life is trying to communicate with you and support you and give you what you need, you just look for the signs. Whether it's an animal, whether it's a certain person or a certain thing that keeps showing up, constantly being guided. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
thank
I
you
love
for
that.
asking that question. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. I'm grateful that you expressed it the way that you did, because I do believe that for me, I don't believe there's an actual representation of that, because there was never really something that happened to me in that way. But I lost a lot of family growing up. I lost my father and uncle both at 37, and then I lost my grandfather right when he was going to retire. So that hit me more because I was older at that age, and I can really like feel what it feels like to lose someone like that. And he passed the year he was going to retire. So it really helped me internalize like, hey, my time on this earth is very, very finite. Like I have to go towards something that really lights me up inside. And that's a big reason for why I do this, because I feel that, again, our beliefs drive our behavior. And if we don't believe that we can do something, we're going to settle for something less than we deserve to really go towards, because we have a much deeper purpose, a much deeper gift to be here. And I know that you speak a lot about that. I'm curious for you. I haven't done really any plant medicines yet, but I do plan on doing them in the future. I'm curious what has been your biggest learning so far, whether it's in your spiritual journey or just the way that you perceive life.
Yeah, I mean, the plant medicines are a path, and I don't think the path is for everyone. I think we have to be mindful, because we hear about it so much. We hear about everyone, oh, this is just the path you have to walk, is what every spiritual person is doing. But I don't think that's the case. I'm actually realizing that's not really, I don't feel called to go back there and want to go on big extreme journeys. I may again at some point in the future, but I feel like the path is here, like right now, just trying to live and commit to being so fully in this moment that is the path. That's the harder path for sure. But everyone wants the quick fix, and sometimes plant medicines will give you that. But that's another pathway. But for me, the main lesson I would say definitely came through like the passing of my friend at that time. I think death reveals so many lessons, and when it does show up, which it will, it's all about like being open to receiving the lesson. And at the time, I've told this story before, and it's on my TikTok for those who want to listen to it. But at the time, the lesson was so direct. It was so direct. It doesn't get any more direct than how the lesson revealed itself. That it just was something that got just clicked, like things that just got clicked inside of me. I was like, whoa, okay, I was meant to receive this clearly.
Yeah.
And it was through a book that my friend had recommended to me before he died. It was the last time I seen him. He told me to get this book. And I was like, sure, man, I'll get it. And when he died, it was the first thing I opened, and it was just, if anyone's read Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, you'll know what I'm talking about. The book is very kind of like profound in what it shares, especially after you've just lost a friend and you've been told to read it.
Yes.
So it was that. And the lesson being that we're not here for time. We are here to learn. And the only way that you can learn is through pain. As humans, we get the gift of having pain. It's weird to think of it like that, right? Pain is a gift, but it really is, because that's the teacher. If you didn't have pain, how would you learn? you just be love and light all the time. And that's what our
Yeah.
souls are. So they choose to come into earth to experience this pain, so they can learn these essential lessons that they can then take with them onto their next kind of evolution or journey, whether that's here on earth or somewhere else in some other planet or dimension. And that's just what I know to be true based on the experiences I've had. But that is the most important question I feel like you just asked there. What are the fundamental lessons that you've learned,
Yeah. I really like that you brought that up, because I don't remember, maybe it was one of my first mentors, but he really brought up the fact that like we're like, just what you said there is pain's a teacher. Like if you put your hand on a stove, you are taught to take your hand off the stove, or you continue staying there. And I think that asking questions have been really powerful for me, because growing up, like I said, I lost a lot of family, and it was like always this reoccurring internal narrative of, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? And it just put me in a position of embodying the identity of a victim. And it just put me in a position of true scarcity. And when I started to really change my life, was asking the question of, how is this happening for me? And it's kind of like what you just said right there. It's like, if we're willing to learn from what life is trying to teach us, we will. If we're not open to receiving what life is trying to teach us, we're going to get taught the same exact lesson over and over and over until we're open to actually learning it. I'm curious, for you, what's the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
Yeah, I agree. The lessons will keep often revealing themselves. And I think it's the same lesson, which is like, you're already here, you made it. Like, this is the end. This is the end. There is nothing to get to. There is nowhere to go and nothing to get to. And I can probably speak for the part of everyone. We always forget that. Like, we always forget. I think that's the trap of like wanting to go into business, because business is always based around future. What's the target? What's the goal? What's the number? What are we trying to hit? And if you get lost in that very quickly. Same as social media, you get lost in it, because like we're constantly measuring ourselves through numbers and progress. But the lesson is always like, we're here. This is it. We made it. This is like end game. You won. Congratulations. Enjoy life. Have fun. So I think that's the primary lesson, is just have fun. Have more fun. Stop taking it so seriously. So yeah, that's a continuous lesson for me, bro. Always will be.
Yeah, I really love that. And I listened to a podcast that you were on, and we feel like we have a lot of the same ideologies around how we live our life. And it was that your purpose is to be on this podcast right now. It's like, that's your purpose. And then after this podcast, your purpose is to do what's next.
Yes.
And for me, it's like a continuous affirmation that I work through with my clients. Is like, it's always reminding myself and them that the purpose of life is to enjoy the passage of time. It's not to focus on what's next or to accomplish this goal, because there's no amount of accomplishment that you can achieve that's going to fill what is missing within you, because nothing's missing. And when we identify the fact that that's true, everything changes in our life. I'm curious, when you came across that realization that there's nothing outside of you that's ever going to fill something that's missing within yourself.
Like when I first realized that, is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Throughout your journey, when has that been the most beneficial for you as well? Like, for realizing that, always coming back to that self-worth is always internal, not external.
Yeah. I think it's a constant like circle. It's a constant, like we're kind of remembering it and then going off and then going, okay, I'm good now. I remembered it. And then you go off and then you sort of get lost again. Then you come back and you remember it. And I feel like that's been happening a lot, just again, through these cycles that we go through. And I first realized it when I was in my corporate job, when I was 21, 22, I realized that, okay, oh shit, I'm here. And you read a few Eckhart Tolle books and then you start to actually apply what you're reading, which is like, I'm going to just really try and prioritize the present moment over anything else. And when you do it, you realize, I'm actually at peace. I'm good. I can work this accounting job for the rest of my life and I'll be at peace. Right. When you realize that, it unlocks all the possibilities of like, okay, but if I was to just go out and do whatever I wanted, what would I do? Knowing this belief, knowing this realization that I have everything. And that's when the forgetting process happens, because you get tested, you get challenged, and then you have to go back to remembering that core fundamental lesson that it's right now. This is it. It's happening. So there's just been so many different stages in that process of me over the last 8 years, where I've had to relearn that, or remember that. And that's the that's the patterns that I said earlier, where every time you level up, it's the same patterns that show up, just disguised differently, and you have to remember the same lesson.
Yeah.
That's why coaching is so helpful, because a coach can help you see it. Yeah.
Dude, you're like speaking like as exactly what I was going to say is right there. As in being a coach, I've noticed that most of the time it's not that our clients need more information, but it's they need to be reminded of the information they already know, and then actually implement it. And that's what the accountability is a big aspect of as well. I know that the group for you, it's like it's a big aspect of life is just implementing what we learn. And I I like the insight that you said there. It's and especially I'm reading A New Earth right now by Eckhart Tolle. Funny enough, Power Now was like one of the biggest books for me. But even Man's Search for Meaning was something that really shifted my perspective. It was like there's you can change your experience on this earth by simply changing the lens that you view life through. And so like your experience can be better if you allow it to be. But if you identify with this being a bad situation, like in the accounting job, it's like you can enjoy it if you choose to. Obviously, we always want more. We always want to have that next step of life. That's what our brains are designed to do. But we can enjoy right now if we choose to. What has been the biggest what has incorporated you to be able to, not only trust that intuition, but really you talk a lot about embodiment. What has been the foundational practice for you that really puts you back in that place and keeps you in that place? Because as you said, we always go through patterns. We're always going to, but what really keeps you foundational in that place?
I think I'm not going to give a practice or a habit, because everyone knows the habits. Everyone knows what they should be doing. What I think is a better question is like, what should you be avoiding or stopping doing? What should you be doing less of? And in my opinion, it becomes very clear and evident what the things are that are taking me out of embodiment. And once you can identify what they are, you can then go, okay, the phone is stealing my energy. The phone is pulling me up in my head. Me being on constantly being on social media or on Zoom calls is pulling me up in my head. So it's like, you can still use those practices. You can still have those habits of like being on social media, but can you do it while embodied? That's the test. And if you can't, maybe like you need to reduce it for a period of time. And for me with social media, that was the thing. I literally had to just like really step back from it, because it was using me rather than me using it. And recently I've got a much better relationship with it, So I would say that, bro, remove, for some people, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's weed, maybe it's smoking tobacco, maybe it's sugar, maybe it's porn, maybe it's like watching Netflix. What is your thing that's taking you out? So like you can, and people say, I just want to like relax and just switch off my mind. Well, no, you're just disconnecting from your body. You're leaving your body. So I feel like that for sure. I'd love to hear about your perspective on that too, and what's been kind of the things that you've had to remove to help you with that process.
Yeah, I think social media is definitely, we're in alignment in that is for sure. For growing up for me, sleeping was a tough thing, because it was like, I have a very overactive mind, allowing to unidentify with my thoughts, to unidentify with like being anxious about the future, all the things. It was going on walks for me. It's been just like so impactful. Really, I find it as a natural meditation to some capacity. Before I knew meditation, what that was, to be in touch with my body, to be in touch with myself. There's a quote I always go back to, and it's from Tom Bilyeu, and it's that all that matters is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And I always reflect on that, because no matter, especially as you said, it's like we're in the space of entrepreneurship, of content creation, and we're always judging our self-worth based on our views, based on how many clients we have, based on how much money we're making, based on all of the metrics that really at the end of the day don't matter. And so being able to get in tune with myself, to really build that relationship with myself and make that the foundation for my coaching has been everything. Because I think that when we internalize the fact that our professional development will never exceed our personal development, life changes. So like you said earlier, it's a lot more fun. And the purpose of life is to have fun, to enjoy it. There's no destination in the future that is going to ever give you more than what the present has right now. It's like the present's a gift. And I really think that that's a mentality that I think a lot of people need to internalize that fact and really embrace it. And as you talk about, embody it. I think that's the biggest part of it.
Big time. Yeah. Great answer, bro. Thank you for sharing that. And I resonate.
There's a last question I ask every guest that comes on the show, and I think it's really, really important. It goes back to like the beliefs that we go through life. And the question is, what belief are you currently unlearning?
That's a good one. I like that. I feel like there's a few. I feel like the main one is continuously unlearning the fact that I have to do something to be someone.
Yeah.
Like I have to make all this money, or I have to like have all the followers to be someone. Like I feel like we're all sort of unlearning that to some capacity, but like you're literally back to the theme of this conversation, which is like, you have arrived. This is it. You have made it. You have everything you need right now. But to really know that, you have to undo the belief that you have to prove yourself. You have to prove that you're worthy, because you don't. And I think once you unlearn that, you realize, like, I actually have nothing to prove. I'm perfect, whole, and complete, but not yet finished. That's when it's like, okay, cool. Now we can have fun. Let's create. We're not doing. We're creating. Easier said than done sometimes, but it really is that simple. It is simple, not easy, but simple.
Yeah. I live by that analogy that life is not simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. Like life always, we try to. I don't think we try to, but we overcomplicate things in every possible way we can. And unlearning that belief, I truly believe, is the foundational belief that everyone has to unlearn, because in life, it's a constant game of change. The only constant in life is change. And if we're able to identify with who we are instead of who we think we are, or who we think we need to become, and all the attaching ourselves to our work and everything that is a part of that, is really I think it's the journey of life, is being able to identify with that. And I think that's why spiritual work is so empowering, and it feels so good in your body, especially because you're able to embody that feeling and that deep knowing and that faith that it is true. Has there been anything that has really, really stood out to you that's been able to keep that faith in foundation for you? Because I think that faith is everything, isn't it?
100%. I would say, like I said earlier in the conversation, that is the foundation, is having some sort of belief in something greater than you. And I think maintaining that would really come down to, like, how are you communing, meaning like, how are you connecting with that? And you can do it all the time. And I think for me, it was like now realizing that I can do that in many micro moments throughout the day, even just saying a prayer before you eat food, to just acknowledge that there's something greater than us that is present here right now, that is moving through us, that is moving through this food. And so it could be like a 2-minute, just like pause, let's just press pause for a moment and just acknowledge the divine creator that gave us this gift of life, and just breathing into your heart and allowing yourself to receive that. If you just did that every time before you drank some water, before you had some food, before you sat down and everything can be turned into a ceremony or a ritual. So I feel like that's been a big shift for me recently, that has allowed that. Even before you jump into the ocean, before you have a swim, just say like a little prayer. Thank you, God, for this gift of cleansing water, whatever it might be. That's been a big one for me recently.
I really love that. Gratitude is really, truly the leading force in positive psychology in the world. If we want to have a better life, we have to lead with that gratitude every single day. And I absolutely love that. I love that, Jordan. For those that would like to find you, everything will be in the show notes, but where can they find you, Jordan?
Jordan Candlish 01 on Instagram and TikTok. They're the main places right now. Just kicked off a men's program. It's called The Path. It's a 12-week men's journey to help guys step into their self-confidence and self-excellence through self-mastery of the 12 core inner domains of a man's life. And I'm super just inspired by all the men that are stepping forward and doing this work. So I'd say Instagram is the main channel. Hit me up on Instagram with something that resonated, or if you need clarity on anything. But man, I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a great conversation, and you're such a great interviewer, bro. And like I said before, this work is so important now more than ever as men. So big ups. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show, man. I'm truly, truly grateful. And I'm so grateful to even be here, to be able to do this, man. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate this conversation. I know a lot of people are going to get a whole lot of value from it.
Yes, I know.
Thank you much.
Big time.